We enter the final quarter of the 2013 FF1M season, and here is the first of those 4 races, the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore, FF1M's night race of the season. Just the one commentator for you today because coronavirus has gripped the world like Pirelli's tyres grip to the road. At least it's not a computer virus, so the FF1M show goes on. And my have we got an interesting championship conclusion heading your way, because there are 6 drivers separated by 25 points, and with 48 points on offer, anyone between Romain Grosjean, Jean-Eric Vergne, Kimi Raikkonen, Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez could win the championship, depending on how the final 4 races go. It was Jean-Eric Vergne who won the Italian Grand Prix, his second of the season, and interestingly enough, at a super low downforce circuit, just like his first win. Must be said that the Constructors' Championship is considerably less close. It looks to be tornadoes. So there's the map of the circuit, 5 kilometres in length, 60 races long, 1 pit stop expected throughout the whole field. And a list of the previous winners as well. Tornado have got 2 wins since 2007. Guy Racing / Gajera / whatever you'd like to call them have won with Robert Kubica on 2008. Adrian Sutil, Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso have other wins. Other drivers have actually won this race, more famously Michael Schumacher twice, once for Dodgem in '98 and another time in 2006. Jarno Trulli in 1999 was the other winner. We have a new pole sitter for this season, and it's Robert Kubica for Andrew F1. The Renault engine's clearly much improved, as are the Andrew F1 and the Mitchell cars, because Nico Hülkenberg is second on the grid. Fernando Alonso is third, with Kimi Raikkonen fourth, so interesting enough, Alonso is the highest placed championship contender on this grid. Grosjean is fifth with Perez sixth, and completing the top 10 we have other championship contenders, Sebastian Vettel, Jean-Eric Vergne. Button isn't one, and neither is Lewis Hamilton, but they round out the top 10. We have a new driver on this grid, and it's going to take a while before he turns up. It's Giro van der Garde. He replaces Esteban Gutierrez for the final 4 races of the season. Van der Garde did quite well in FF2M. He had third in the championship in the end, briefly led it at one point after, I believe, Hungary, but then Magnussen and Chandok got the measure of the Dutchman, and it was Karun Chandok who won the FF2M championship. Interestingly enough, Pedersen is off the back row. Kobayashi is in 18th position, so that's a good effort from him. Now then, 5 lights go on, obligatory pause. That's a very long pause, and the race gets underway. Who gets the best start out of the Renault-powered cars? It looks like Kubica as they break into turn 1. Hülkenberg up the inside, but he's managed to hold on to... No, he's dropped down to third behind Fernando Alonso. So the Spaniard has had a good start. As we round out the first few corners, it's Kubica, Alonso, and look at that, there's a new livery on the Gajera, new silver-coloured cars. They intended to run this for the 2014 season, but they brought it in a few races early, braking hard into turn number 6 at the end of Raffles Boulevard. And there is Van der Garde, he's up a place. Good start from him. And there's contact between Sam Bird and Bruno. It's Kobayashi, he's had a terrible start from 18th, dropped down to last now, as they round the Singapore Sling, and then into the chicane that marks the Anderson Bridge. Nice bit of architecture. Braking hard now for the turn 13. Tight corner, probably the slowest on the circuit. Alonso is the fastest driver on the circuit, but it's Jean-Eric Vergne who is on the move as he challenges Jenson Button for 8th position going through the first few corners, and he's just about got it going through turn 3. And Alonso is only half a second behind Kubica, so there's a battle for the lead possibly. Let's see what happens in a few laps' time. Jean-Eric Vergne's still on the move. He's now challenging Sergio Perez for 7th position. Can he do it coming out of Anderson Bridge and down one of the back straights? Going into turn number 14. Into the bit that was purpose-built for this particular circuit. Still on street circuits, still on the roads at the moment. And then there's 6 90-degree corners. Here's the first of them, underneath the Fly Emirates Bridge. And now onto the purpose-built section. Now then, a left-right that goes underneath the grandstand. Nice little novelty. And then the final 2 90-degree corners onto a short straight. And then the final couple of corners are very quick, using a lot of curvies at Verne, and I suspect everybody else. But going into the first corner on lap 4, Perez defending his position with all that he can do, and he's done that quite well. Let's have a look at that Gajera livery, because it sounds like there's a bit of a sponsorship deal. The Sega has gone in favour of Sony. That could cause a bit of controversy amongst the Tornado camp, who have PlayStation 4 sponsored on the side of their cars. Ooh, there's going to be some interest in the 2014 season. So it's still Kubica who leads. He's extended the gap to 1.5 seconds now on lap 6 from Fernando Alonso. And now Verne has got the inside. There's still Sega on the side of the Gajera, as Perez grimly hangs on to 7th position as Verne hacksaws away at the wheel. Seems to remember that from last time. Oh, there's a problem for Valtteri Bottas. He's got an electrical problem as indicated on his steering wheel. And he's going to drop down the order. He's already down the order. But he's got Van der Garde looking to make an overtake. That's tight going into... And there's contact between the two, and Van der Garde spins around. So far, a bit of an inauspicious debut to his FF1M career, as he drops down to last, and Valtteri Bottas has terminally given up. That looks like it's going into the 3rd 90-degree pairs. It's an unfortunate retirement there for the GRM. We have a look at Hulkenberg, who's in 3rd, who has got an engine failure out of the back of the Mitchell yet again. Yet another reliability problem. So it's pretty clear that reliability has gone a bit pear-shaped. Pretty much at the same time as Bottas's electrical failure. What's that? That's 5 retirements in the past 6 races for Hulkenberg now. As we rejoin with Verne, who so far has provided all the action in terms of clean overtakes. Other action has been a bit fickle if you're Valtteri Bottas and Gerda van der Garde. And again, and Perez runs a bit wide. Has Verne got him this time into turn 3? He has! Jean-Eric Verne up into 6th position. He is now Grosjean's nearest championship contender, and with Grosjean up in 3rd, Verne has got to make progress, and he's doing just that because he is now up to 5th position. Vettel trying to cheat across the circuit in order to keep the position, but Verne has the measure of the German. And that will be why, because he's on low fuel. So, an interesting strategy for Verne, going light at the beginning and then using new tyres to try and get an advantage on the rest of the field, and then try and hang on until the end of the race. There's confirmation that he is going to the end. Quick stop, 6.6, considering the amount of fuel he's just taken on board. Worth mentioning now that all teams have confirmed their engine suppliers for next season. Gajera have gone for the newly named Mugen. Apparently it will be a completely new engine, because the Honda Mugen engines in this season, they're Honda, but rebadged as Mugen because it sounds a bit cooler. But the Mugen will be a completely new engine next season. Gajera have that as manufacturers. Pedersen, Mitchell and one other one, which is GRM, they will have customer Mugens next season. Tornado have gone for the Climax engine, and customers of the Climax engine will be Horizon. Meanwhile, Shake and Bake have gone for the Megatron. Hold that thought, because Nico Rosberg is challenging Al Jaswari for 12th position going into the first corner. It's 11th position, actually. Possibly because Adrian Sutil has just come into the pits. I might be wrong on that one. There's Maldonado in 10th position. Al Jaswari. Then Rosberg and Daniel Ricciardo. Shake and Bake have the manufacturer Megatron engine, and customers of the Megatron engine will be Andrew F1. We have a look at Jean-Eric Vergne, who is behind Lewis Hamilton. Vergne having pitted, Hamilton has not. It'll be interesting to see how much further the top 8 can go. Obviously, they'll have much fresher tyres than Vergne. And still, Kubica holds on to the lead. It's just 8/10 over Alonso. Grosjean is 5 seconds back. Vergne has just taken 8th position, and he is some 37.2 seconds behind Kubica, who just comes into the pits right now. Into his box goes the pole, and Alonso in the pits as well. So the top 2 making pit stops at the same time. So if Alonso does anything about Kubica, it looks like Kubica had a much quicker stop. It was 6 seconds, and I expect Alonso was a little bit, like probably 8 seconds. And, ooh, now is Vettel. I was wondering if one of the top lads had gone off the circuit. It was clearly Vettel. Now, was there contact between himself and Alonso exiting the pits? Yes, there was! My goodness me! Vettel has broken his front wing as a result of that, but it was completely perpendicular. Here it is from onboard Alonso, exiting the pits. Here comes Vettel, and Alonso drives into the side of the shake and bake and nearly decapitates the German. That's going to cost him dearly, is Vettel, because he's 12 points behind Grosjean in the championship, and that's exactly what Vettel didn't need right now. So as Vettel limps back into the pits, just another few teams to go in terms of new engine deals. Willows have gone for a manufacturer Ilmor engine, and customers of them are Exolite. And lastly, FJR have got the Judd engines exclusively. So Vettel with broken front wing. If anything, he should be lucky that he's still in the race, because the angle he had there was frightening. Off comes the old broken nose and on comes a new one. 26 laps, that's not enough fuel. He's going to have to do a quick splash and dash, because there's 32 laps to go, or 33 laps to go for him, and he's only taking 26 laps of fuel, so he's going to do a Kubica from Monza. Interesting strategy there from the shake and bake as he rejoins behind his teammates Maldonado and one of the Willows, and I think he just hit someone. Did he hit Ricciardo? Or did he hit Alguersuari? And very strange racing line is taken there. Kimi Räikkönen comes into the pits to make his scheduled stop. 7.2 seconds. Where's he going to rejoin? Speed limiter off. Bypassing turn 1. There's a tornado on the right hand side, but I think he's safe. And some yellow flags somewhere. That's behind Jean-Eric Vergne. So Räikkönen rejoins 6th, and Ricciardo nudging at the back of the Pedersen and having a very pathetic spin at the Singapore Sling. But he rejoins in 17th position. Grosjean due in the pits this lap. The gap between himself and Kubica is 15.8 seconds. Kubica is going to have... he's going to have an enormous lead by the time the pit stops are done, mostly thanks to the shenanigans of Alonso and Vettel. So for now, it's looking good for Kubica, but now Grosjean will have slightly fresher tyres, and as we've seen this season, the Tornado is probably the best car on the grid, particularly in the races. 7.2 seconds is the stop. There goes Kubica. Now can Grosjean rejoin ahead of third placed whoever it was? I think it was Perez. It looks good. No, it doesn't. Perez has rejoined in second, but the Mexican has to make a pit stop. So rounding turn 3 goes Grosjean, as some people take some pictures with flash photography. It's Jenson Button who's up in 4th position at the moment. I don't know if he's made a stop. I suspect probably not. As Räikkönen challenges Vergne for 5th, who is defending aggressively. Going through turn 1, both run wide. And I thought that was going to give Alonso an opportunity, but As it is, Raikkonen has taken 5th from Verne. And now Alonso is going to try and steal a march on the Frenchman, going down Raffles Boulevard into turn 6. And they take a strange line going into the corner. They go for the middle of the circuit. I don't know if it's very bumpy on the outside or anything, but it's interesting to point out. So Kubica retakes the lead on lap 30. It's exactly half distance as Nico Rosberg comes into the pits. Alonso all over the back of Verne, whose tyres must be a little bit worn out. So it looks like the early strategy hasn't worked for Verne. He may well drop down well down the order. Perez is 12.8 seconds behind Kubica, but he has yet to stop. Grosjean, therefore, is in a net second, and looking quite good to try and close that gap to Kubica. Maybe challenge for the win, and by doing so, strengthening his World Championship bid, because he has got 7-point lead over Verne, and a further 3 points over Raikkonen, a further 2 points over Vettel, who is well down the order and needing to stop again. In fact, this is the battle for second now between Perez and Grosjean. Perez due in the pits this lap, so he could do Kubica a big favour, as we've seen Hamilton getting past Alonso. Go on, lad. Down the back straight goes second and third place. Taking the middle line once again, going into turn number 6 or so. Who knows, they really need to name corners now. I'm with Chamber on that one. This must be when Hamilton got ahead of Alonso. Alonso trying to overtake Verne around the outside, but getting on the marbles, and that's where Hamilton powered through. I do think Hamilton has to make a pit stop though. He'll be quite quick on fresh tyres. In fact, he's due in the pits this lap as he tries to get past Verne, but Alonso's going to try and get round the outside going to turn 1. That's a good effort. Well done. And Perez has made a pit stop, so he has rejoined behind this lot. Let's have a look at this again. Down the main straight, you see Verne defending, and Alonso taking full advantage of Hamilton's inside line. Staying on the track as well this time around, not spinning. And it's pretty clear that Grosjean is catching up to Kubica because he's just taken 2.6 seconds out of Kubica's lead on that one lap. Don't know if Kubica had traffic. As we see the last of the first stops, Alonso takes Verne for 4th position now because Button is in the pits, as is Lewis Hamilton. So now they'll be the quick ones on new tyres, and they've rejoined 7th and 8th. So that's worked out quite well for those two. Who are we looking at here? This is Raikkonen. It isn't. It is Verne and Perez. So on new tyres, Perez has closed in very quickly to Verne, who is going to struggle. There's no other word of saying that. He's just going to struggle. Up the inside of Singapore Sling, that's not really an overtaking place unless you're completely alongside. Let's keep an eye on the gaps as well between Grosjean and Raikkonen. That's 11 seconds. And Kubica, well, it's pretty clear that Grosjean is going to catch him. Rather when he's going to overtake, rather than if. Let's have a look at some of these sponsors. I'm just trying to work it out. Sega is one of them on the front. Whether it's a new form of Sega, like a Mega Drive, but for the 21st century. 1.8 seconds. Grosjean just took out a Kubica on that lap. Kimi was actually 4/10 slower. So, it looks like Grosjean has got the measure of Raikkonen. Has he got the measure of Kubica? We might find out in a few laps' time. Meanwhile, we look at Verne and Perez. Theoretically number 2s, but both are within mathematical contention of the championship. Verne's still defending with every fibre of his being. these two better be careful because Button is catching up to these two very, very quickly. I suspect Hamilton will be as well. See the gap between Button and Hamilton. It is 15.7 seconds. And the gap between Button and Perez is 4.6. Some quick maths going on there. Probably wrong, but... ah well. Is Perez going to have another look going into the Singapore sling this time around? Verne's finding the need to defend, and as a result he's missed the apex. I think he was closer to Malaysia rather than Singapore sling with that one, as they go over the Anderson Bridge. Is Perez going to get good traction out of this corner? Not really, no. But he's in the slipstream now. The straight is too short though. So it looks like his best opportunity is going to have to be turn 1. 3.1 seconds now, the gap between Kubica and Grosjean. Despite the chaos of the early stages, we've had very few retirements. And look at that, that's Button already closing up to the back of Verne and Perez. He was, what, 4.6 behind the pair as they started this lap. It's going to be a lot less than that as they cross the line. Round in the final couple of corners. Perez is right in the slipstream now. You can just see how much Verne is struggling on old tyres. But Perez just can't do anything about it. And such is the pace of Button. He took best part of 3.5 seconds out of Perez on that lap. As Kubica is right in with the traffic. He's got Alguersuari as a buffer. At some point Grosjean is going to have to lap the Spaniard. And then he'll be right behind him. But Alguersuari is keeping up with Kubica by the looks of it. So, genuinely, he's struggling on tyres, I think, is Kubica. Because he's one of the early stoppers. Grosjean was a couple of laps later. Sam Bird has come into the pits from 11th place, dropping a couple of positions to Suttil, and Alguersuari is having a look at Kubica going into turn 1, as Grosjean takes another 2.2 seconds out of the Andrew F1's lead. Let's see if Raikkonen's closing in on Kubica. Half a second that lap. This rate probably might be enough, but it needs a bit more. Grosjean has now got ahead of Alguersuari, so this is it. Providing Kubica can overtake, unless Kubica can overtake Suttil and the Willows of Ricciardo, Grosjean is now right behind Kubica. Is he going to lap him into the Singapore sling? Not quite, and it's Alguersuari having to go back at Grosjean. He's trying to get a bit feisty with others, as... ooh, that's not the place to do it, Kubica, and now you've got Grosjean right behind you, as Suttil kindly lets you through. That's not going to work out too badly for Kubica in the end. Alguersuari alongside Grosjean, what's going on? I think Alguersuari might be one on very fresh tyres. There's one more car, but he's scampered off into the distance, so Grosjean has got a bit of a clear run now on Kubica as they round the 90-degree corners. Perez still hasn't got past Verne for 5th position, so that's costing Gajira valuable points. Perez being a bit tentative for whatever reason. Where is he in a championship? He's had 4 top 4 finishes in the past 4 races, so he's not like he's doing badly or anything. Definitely improved as the season has gone on. As the Suttil and Alguersuari battle going into turn 1, that's for 12th position. Alguersuari takes that position off of the horizon. Now, can he catch up to Kubica once again? And for that matter, can Grosjean do anything about Kubica? Van der Garde makes his first FF1M pit stop of his career, down in 19th position, but he'll be on new tyres. If you're down in 19th position, that's going to make bugger all difference. I think Perez might have got Verne this time now. He's flashing 5th and 6th position. But I think Perez has finally got past Verne. So, a successful move for the Gajera. Now, can he close up to Fernando Alonso? Vettel has moved past Maldonado, interestingly enough. Obviously, he's got one more pit stop to make because Shake and Bake, for whatever reason, didn't put enough fuel in the car. What have we got? Button versus Verne now for 6th position. That's tight going into turn 1. Verne runs a bit wide, as did Button. But Button has got it because he didn't run as wide as the Frenchman. And that's 6th position for the Exolite. So now Kubica is lapping the willows of, I believe it's Ricciardo, but it could well be Rosberg. He's pulled out a bit of a gap now over Grosjean as 1.1 seconds as Kubica locks up, going to 3, he's ran wide! Is that going to give Grosjean the lead? It is! And that was a costly mistake from Kubica. And now as he round into turn 4, Grosjean is in the lead of the race. And that could be... Oh, Kobayashi! He's had an engine failure. That's going into the Anderson Bridge. As he gets craned away by the invisible winch. We've got a battle for 5th position now between... Oh, this is Jenson Button making his way past the GRM, who goes onto his side. What on earth is going on there? He's still on his side. That's Verne out. Jean-Eric Verne has hit the GRM as it rights itself, and Paul Di Resta has got back going again. That was bizarre. So let's see what happens here. It was started by Button, and then... Oh, that's unfortunate. Just the merest of kisses on the back of Di Resta as Verne loses a wheel. And, oh, is that Grosjean out? Romain Grosjean's out of the race! Unbelievable, with just a few laps to go. He's had a problem somewhere going into the first pair of 90 degrees, and his gearbox has let him down. Kubica retakes the lead of the race. The gap is 15.7 seconds to Raikkonen now, and what could have been a massive, massive step towards championship glory has now thrown it wide open. Unbelievable. So now entering his final lap, Robert Kubica has got a 15.7 second, 16.2 second, beg your pardon, lead over Kimi Raikkonen. And it's now plain sailing, providing his car doesn't let him down. Made that one mistake going into turn 3, but to finish first, you have to finish. I know it's an old cliche, but it applies. So he's halfway around the final lap now. I think Raikkonen's definitely settled for 2nd position. Alonso 3rd. And that is another useful result potentially for the Exolite driver. In fact, the Exolite team as a whole, because Button is in 5th position and Sergio Perez is in an Exolite sandwich. Fairly solid drive from Hamilton to pit late and then move back up to 6th position. And rounding off the top 8, looks like Vettel did recover fairly well, but again, an unfortunate incident with Alonso. Up to 7th position, and a lap down in 8th position is Maldonado. Will it remain like this for the final lap? Probably, because they're all quite spaced out now. But Kubica has got just a few more corners to go, 2 to be exact, and I think he's going to do it. So rounding the final corner to take his first win of the season is Robert Kubica for Andrew F1. Started on pole position, hung on as best as he can from Grosjean, did lose the lead, but regained it because his car was reliable. And that top 8 that I mentioned during the final lap stayed like that for the final lap. So it is Raikkonen who is 2nd, from Alonso 3rd, Perez 4th, Button 5th, Hamilton, Vettel and Maldonado rounding out the top 8. So 5 out of 6 Yorkshire teams drivers finishing the points. The other one being a rather inauspicious debut for Guido van der Garde. We'll see where he came, but probably last. Some key retirements during that particular race. the biggest one of them all, undoubtedly Romain Grosjean, who had that transmission failure. Very unfortunate, it has to be said. And the fastest lap of the race was set by Sebastian Vettel, who probably did his splash and dash to set a very fast lap right at the end on new tyres. In fact, both Tornadoes didn't finish, both in very unfortunate circumstances. I think Bandit of the Year must definitely go to Paul di Resta. I mean, I've never seen that before in FF1M, a car getting onto its side, righting itself magically, and then just go again. And di Resta himself, he finished in 13th position. So what does this do for the championship now? Just 2 points is the gap now between Romain Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen, as the top 6 condense itself a little bit more. Just 20 points now, the gap between 1st and 6th. Jean-Eric Vergne with his DNF, still 7 points behind Grosjean, but now Raikkonen has got ahead of him. Sebastian Vettel, I bet he can't quite believe his luck when he was just 10 points behind Grosjean after that race. Tornado's championship lead a lot less secure now because Gajera have taken a massive chunk out of that lead. It's now 15 points. Exolite looking a lot safer in 3rd position. Shake and Bake just as safe in 4th. And Andrew F1 move ahead of Mitchell in the Constructors' Championship to assume 5th. So that was the Singapore Grand Prix with, no doubt, a completely dramatic ending with Grosjean's non-finish. We shall see you for the next race, which will take place at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. See you then.